Welcome to the Startup Grind.
All right, well, about 4 years ago, my daughter and I embarked on a journey to solve the age-old problem of disappearing girls' hair barrettes.
Very familiar.
Very familiar. It's an age-old struggle. My mother used to get upset with me for losing my barrettes. Her mother got upset with her for losing her barrettes. And I got upset about losing some barrettes one day about 4 years ago and I got on Twitter and just started ranting about losing barrettes. I thought I was just blowing off some steam. A number of mothers started responding to my tweet with the same type of frustrations. They spend all this time on their daughter's hair. They send them to school, they come back. Half the barrettes are missing, the hair's all out of place, or they have to put rubber bands on top of the barrettes to keep the barrettes in place. So we're just going back and forth about our blunders with barrettes. And I didn't know it at the time, but my pastor was online and simply replied, "Sounds like a market you need to break into." That was not what I had in mind, but it started the process, and we launched in February of 2014, GaBBY Bows through GaBBYBows.com.
So when you say you launched, tell me, how did you launch and how did you develop your product?
Well, it took us about 3.5 years of research and development, and after that Twitter conversation with the mothers as well as my pastor, about 2 days later, I was pondering what was said in that conversation. I don't think at the time that I was really serious about trying to solve the problem. I just kind of responded to my pastor, like, yeah, I'll get right on it. Like, what was that? Like, I was just trying to blow off some steam on Twitter. I don't even know why he was involved in this conversation. But I was doing her hair one morning before school, and it was still on my mind. And as I was doing her hair, I was twisting her hair. I was twisting her hair like I always just love to do, like my mom styled mine in pigtails, braids, and twists. I got frustrated doing her hair because I knew that when I picked her up from school, half the barrettes would be missing and her hair would be just all out of place. So I just kind of mumbled under my breath, like, God, it's got to be something to fix these barrettes. Like, we've got to create something that works. And all she heard was, "Mommy's gonna make me a barrette. Mommy's gonna make me a bow." She was 5, and I was like, you know what? She was like, "Mommy, are you gonna make me a bow? Are you gonna make me a bow? Are you gonna make me a bow?" And I was like, "Mommy's gonna make me a bow. Mommy's gonna make me a bow." She started singing and dancing. And I was like, oh my God, what have I started? So I figured, oh yeah, I said, yeah, Mommy's gonna make you a bow. So I figured she's gonna go to school, come back and forget we had that whole conversation. But every day after that day, she'd wake up, "Mommy, when are my bows coming? Are we gonna make a bow? What are we gonna do about the bow today?" You know, we'd walk through a grocery store and she'd be like, "Mommy, are my bows gonna be in here? Are they gonna be sold here?" I was just like, where did this come from? But it just ignited something in her. So at that point, I called her a broken record in pigtails. She bugged me enough that I said, okay, let's look at it like it's a science project. Let's start comparing barrettes, see what works, what doesn't work. And I got her involved in the process. So we started researching bows. You know, first I just kind of did some Google patent searches to see if anyone had tried to come up with something that would work. Didn't find anything, so we started just comparing barrettes that worked, barrettes that didn't work. And at 5, we just sit down at the kitchen table. She'd be right there with me, and you say, you know, this one works a little better. Why do you think this works and that one doesn't? And he was like, well, this one's got, you know, these teeth. You know, this one has this. And from then, the idea came. Lots of research, lots of development. When the idea came, I don't even have artistic skills to be able to draw it, so I paid somebody like $100. I'm like, can you draw an idea for me, a 3D image of what I'm thinking? He was able to draw that for me. And my only intent at the time was just to sell the idea to a larger company that already makes hair accessories. I wasn't trying to start a business. So I had that 3D image, and for the first 2 years, I was just trying to sell it.
And tell us, just for those who don't know, tell us what that image is or what that concept was.
Certainly. So the concept was a barrette that first of all had 2 faces instead of 1, because standard barrettes just have 1 face. So as soon as the hair turns, a pigtail or a braid or a twist turns, you end up just seeing the back of the barrette. So one of the first things we wanted to do was create something that had 2 faces, so it didn't matter whether the hair turned, you'd always see the design. And that's based on a pet peeve my mother had. Every time she would see me and my daughter, she would just like, Rozalynn, why can't you twist it right that the barrette design always shows? So she would retwist my daughter's hair, and just kind of insult me on the sly. Retwist my daughter's hair and then put the barrette on the end and say, this is how you do it so you can always see the design. So one of the first things I wanted to do was make sure my mother doesn't embarrass me and retwist my daughter's hair when she sees her. So we're gonna create a barrette that it doesn't matter whether the hair moves, you'll always see the design because it has two faces. So our original design was a barrette that had two faces, a strip in the middle, and that was the idea. And then each face would have teeth and cradles on the inside of it to help trap and gather the hair so it would not slip out. So you would just close the three-pronged barrette together like that. So that was the concept, that was the idea. And I got someone to draw that for me and started relentlessly reaching out to major companies. Probably wasn't the wisest thing to do at the time because I wasn't fully protected with my idea either. Got some response from some companies, some didn't even bother to contact me, but I finally got through one major company that I have a lot of great respect for, and they took it through a focus group process. That was my first indication that we were on to something.
And that's what I was going to say. So when did you realize you really had potential, or when the product had potential?
Yeah, when they told us that they were taking it to a focus group, that's when I realized this, okay, wow, okay, maybe we're on to something here. At the end of the whole focus group process, I think at that time I maybe said, okay, let me try to get a provisional patent, and I went through that process by myself. I did that myself. By the time they took it to the focus group process and took it through their marketing team, it just didn't fit the strategic direction that company was going in with their hair accessory products. They were focusing more on adults versus children, and they, basically said, thank you, but no thank you right now.
So now, how did you stay motivated?
Well, really at that time, my only ambition was to sell it to a company. And I said, well, if they at least took it to a focus group, I'm on to something. Let me just reach out to another company. And I probably would have been fine to stop right there. But my daughter at the time, she was probably about 6 then, was still every day asking me about her barrette. And it was something in me that just kind of ignited that we've gone through so much of this process already, a year and a half. I don't want to show her that we quit when somebody said no. Right. We got to keep pushing, we got to keep trying. So what motivated me more than anything was my daughter, and her persistence and wanting to see a product, to want to see it in stores. So I went back to that company who told me no, and I said, look, I really appreciate all that you've done. The fact that you took it to a focus group, we appreciate you believing in us that much. I mean, we're just a mom and daughter in Columbia, South Carolina. But I need one more favor of you, and I promise I'll leave you alone. I said, can you help me make one bow? He was like, what? Can you make me, he was like, are you serious? I was like, he's like, do you know how much that might cost to develop something to make it? I was like, I do. I mean, well, I do and I don't. I think I have an idea, but do you know what it's like to have a 5-year-old, 6-year-old daughter in your house asking you about something every day? And he was just like, okay, no, I don't. I said, I have to do this. I have to show her that nothing's impossible. I have to show her that you don't quit when somebody says no, that you keep pushing. So for me, it was more like a project, and I didn't want her to get in life as a teenager or a preteen or as an adult and reflect back on this experience and be like, well, we just stopped when somebody said no. I wanted her to always feel like nothing's impossible. I'm just keep trying. I'll try a different way. So that was the motivation.
So did they help you?
They did. He said, wow. He was kind of moved by my passion to try to prove this point to my daughter. And he said, look, if you're serious, here are 2 names of 2 engineering companies that we have done business with before. They are based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Let me go ahead and warn you, when you call them, they're going to tell you, we don't work with startups. But you can tell them I told you to call. Yes. It was amazing. So I called the first number, was disconnected. I said, okay, maybe that's not the company. And I called the next one, and as soon as I said what I was trying to do, he said, we don't work with startups. I said, well, he told me to call. And they were like, oh. All right. I was like, man, I'm sorry. I just, 20 minutes of your time. If you don't want to work with me, I completely understand. You won't hear from me again. I just need 20 minutes. So I took some time off from my job, traveled to Charlotte, had 20 minutes with him, and at the end of our conversation, he said, I think you're on to something. We'll work with you.
So now how long was that process from the time that you met with them to you actually had a product?
Oh goodness, that probably took another year. Because I showed him the drawing and the concept of what I was thinking, but as engineers, as only engineers could do, they looked at it and said, you know, that would be difficult for a manufacturer to make. You know, you're talking about plastic injection molding. To make a 3-pronged barrette like that would be difficult to go through a machine. What is an easier way to do that is to have one flat strip that folds, and I should have, let me get this from my purse, the barrette, that folds like a Z or an N. So it's processed as one long strip of plastic, but it's able to fold because of the hinges to have the same effect of the 2 faces and a center strip, but not manufactured in that way. And I was just like, you know, wow, that's brilliant. That's exactly what needs to happen. So they helped me kind of redraw it, come up with a professional drawing. And we did the CAD model and the prototype and all those things. We worked with them, and even through their company, they helped us with our logo and packaging. And then they helped us identify a manufacturer because we were having a difficult time to do that as well. So they reached out and helped us identify the manufacturer, and the rest is history.
Now you mentioned a patent earlier. What's the status of your patent?
Well, after I did my own provisional patents the first 2 times, after we were talking to companies like that, so okay, I really probably need to get a real lawyer involved. So we hired an attorney to officially file another provisional patent. And it was, you know, a tight provisional patent. And then we filed a design patent. We filed that last summer. And we are in the substantive notice or substantive approval phase of that. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office sent 1 or 2 questions that we think our lawyers have already responded to. So we should have our design patent within a couple of weeks. Our utility patent was filed last fall, so of course that'll take longer, but that's kind of the status where we're at with our patents. So.
Okay. And so, who was your first customer?
Jennifer Patterson McClary. On February 9th at 4:19. We launched the website on February 9th, and the story about this, and let me back up, because when we got the lawyer involved, she was like, you know, you have done a lot and not been protected. You need to backtrack and do a couple of things. She said, I need you to publicly disclose your idea through like a website or something like that. So even when we launched, I still wasn't trying really to create a business. I still had an intention in the back of my mind, like, I'm gonna do what my lawyer says. I'm gonna publicly disclose my idea, have it on the website. By that time, we had arranged manufacturing. In the minimum order, they couldn't just make me 1 bow. Of course, everybody knows that now. I was naive to think I could get 1 bow, but the minimum order we were able to arrange was 500 packs of bows. Wow. So I was like, well, I guess I could set up a website, sell my barrettes, and then run back to this company and say, please buy my idea. I was able to sell some packs. People like it. So that was my whole intention, and I was just gonna very quietly release a website, just post it on Facebook to my friends and be like, y'all go buy these bows, help me out, okay? A friend of mine convinced me to do a YouTube video to promote it. And I said, okay, I mean, that shouldn't be too hard. We'll do a 1-minute YouTube video. We launched the website with the YouTube video on February 9th. And within a week, we had 1,000 hits, and orders just started coming in from all over the country. And I was like, oh snap, we're in business. Like, oh man, I mean, it was just, like, I remember the first check we got, I went to my bank and I was just like, Ms. Goodwin, I can't cash this. This is written out to GaBBY Bows. I was like, well, why not? You don't have a GaBBY Bows business account. I was like, oh yeah.
You were really in business.
Yeah. I just wouldn't. I was still expecting to just go back to the company and sell my idea. I was not trying to enter into business. So we launched the website that day, and people was like, wow, this is amazing. And I'll never forget that email coming that, payment received, and it was our first order.
Wow.
We were just like in the kitchen, like, oh my goodness, let's get the bows together. We were so excited. And we were just so thankful. We were just like, okay, we got to do something really special. So I had Gabrielle write a thank you card to her. And, ever since then, I was like, that's such a wonderful personal touch. So every online order we receive to this day, my daughter writes a personal thank you note to the customer. And people really just, she's 8, so, it's little cricket handwriting, and, thank you for buying my bows. Usually, the, standard message, unless we know who they are and we can say who the daughters are, but I hope the girls in your life love them, and, GaBBY. And people love that, but that started from that first order. We were really just trying to thank her because we were so thankful that somebody believed in us in order to spend their money.
So now, have you had a mentor through this process?
I think I've probably had a series of people in my life who've always just been, but as far as the specific, every time something occurred through the business, I've not necessarily had that. I've had mentors and life coaches through life. My pastor's wife always and will continue to always be coaches and mentors to me. There's certainly many things I've gleaned through all of the wonderful resources here in Columbia, was through the city, through the incubator, through the exchange, SCORE, the South Carolina Women's Business Center. So I've met many different people, 1 Million Cups. I've met so many different people and entrepreneurs over this year and a half that all of them are mentors to me kind of from afar. So I can't necessarily identify one person.
Now, you just participated in Washington, D.C. In the InnovateHER national competition. Tell us about that experience.
It was an amazing experience, particularly because I submitted and entered with really no expectation beyond the local level. So, we entered here, got extended invitation to pitch here, so we pitched here. And the whole story about our pitch is hilarious because we were in Chicago for the Black Women's Expo. Walgreens had invited us to be one of 6 select vendors to be in their pavilion, 6 select businesses who do business with them. And so we had spent, it was a 3-day expo. Working 10-hour days, me and Gabrielle, and it was 35,000 women in this expo. We were not prepared. And we were literally hiding behind our banner to eat when we got a chance, when we were hungry. It was just an overwhelming, wonderful experience. And Gabrielle was a trooper. Oh my goodness, she worked, she pitched, she sold those bows. It was just amazing to watch her do that. And we passed out every time we got in our room that night. We couldn't do anything. But so we were in Chicago, got the notice that we could pitch, or we were extending an invitation to pitch in Columbia at 5:30 on Monday. Our flight was supposed to land at 8:30 on Monday that night. So we changed our flight. You probably don't even notice yourself. We changed our flight, and the earliest we could land was 5:20. My husband, and he's so wonderful, he had Gabrielle's dress and my suit in the car and basically just kind of pulled over on the side of at the airport. We threw our luggage in, we ran to the site where we were supposed to pitch, didn't even speak to anybody, went straight to the bathroom because we had on jeans, changed clothes in the restroom, came out, and he was like, "You're the first one on the program to pitch." We were like, oh my God. So I'm sweating and I'm going, oh man. And so then we had to set up a table. So we set up our table and we were just frantically just like, oh, this is insane. So we get up to pitch and my legs are literally shaking. And Gabrielle and I pitched together. So she pitch so strong. I looked at myself, I said, get yourself together, mama. I mean, she just had such a command. I'm just like, wow, let me get myself together. So I kind of shook myself and we finished the pitch and ended up winning. So I was like, okay, our business plan is being sent off to DC with 75, 100 others. We probably will never hear anything else back. So when I got the email that we made it to the finals, I was like, are you serious?
Well, and what's funny, if I may add, we didn't think that we would, because we did the competition, we didn't think we would get anybody. And evidently there were a few bets in the office, and one of the guys was like, I guess I got to eat my words. I said, exactly. But I mean, we didn't even have an expectation that we would really get that far in the competition as a city, so we were really shocked too.
And I mean, I applied the Friday morning that we were in Chicago, and literally what happened is I got an email the day before, and I said, what's there to lose? Mm-hmm. So I woke up at like 5:30, went to the business office in the hotel and applied. Mm-hmm. Gabrielle was still asleep. So I came in, she was like, Mama, where'd you go? I said, I just applied for a pitch competition. Okay, go back to sleep. You know, I thought that was the end. And to get to DC and to be among that group of women, I'm talking about women who had created ways to detect preeclampsia, who had come up with new ways, new pregnancy tests, and solutions for women who had survived breast cancer. I mean, it was amazing. An idea to help alert parents if they're about to leave a child in a hot car. I mean, it was just, the ideas were just phenomenal, and they were phenomenal. They, of course, were very well established and had their patents and had been in business for several years. And there was a couple of times I'm like, okay, why am I here? But there were a couple of people who were on the committee who just kind of came to me to the side and were just like, I know you feel out of place, but we wanted you to be here, and we're glad you're here. I was like, thank you.
Well, tell everyone too, because GaBBY Bows had a special experience that morning. So tell everyone about how that kind of worked out.
Yeah, so they honored us at a breakfast before the pitch competition. And we were at the table with one of the people who was on a panel before, Nell, what's Nell's last name? Just a phenomenal businesswoman. So she was on the panel, and we were just really just gleaning just so much from her being on the panel. She was just phenomenal. And then we realized she was at our table and was going to lead discussion. We was like, oh man, she's awesome. So we get there, and she just kind of goes around the table like, what's your business? What do you do? She's just running the table. She's just like, this woman's bad. So she gets to Gabrielle, and Gabrielle starts telling her about her business. She's like, come here. So Gabrielle shows her the barrettes, and I'm taking pictures of that because I thought that was, okay, this is our moment. She's gonna find out about the barrette, and she's, a big time woman. This is wonderful. I'm gonna take some pictures, post it on Instagram, and tag her or something. She said, the Washington Post needs to know about this. I said, okay, follow me. So we get up, and she goes to the host that's on the main stage and the photographer to take a picture of her right now. This needs to be in the Washington Post. This is news. And people just started moving. And then we were just posing for pictures. We didn't know what was going on. And then somebody came up with a notepad and started asking me questions. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what just happened, but I think it was good. Mm-hmm. So we go on to the pitch, before that, yeah, we're sitting there during another panel discussion, and out of the blue they said, well, we just heard that we have a very young entrepreneur here in the audience. Her name is Rozalynn Goodwin, and she is 8 years old. Come up here, Gabby. And everybody started looking around. Gabrielle was in the restroom. So I jump up, and I run to the restroom, and soap is all over her hands and her arms, like an 8-year-old. I was like, Gabrielle, they just called you on the main stage. She was like, what? So we just run, and I'm trying to get the soap off her arms. We just running up to the main stage, and we get up there, and I get the last bit of soap, and I just put it on my dress. And they just said, well, Gabrielle, tell me about your product. And they just put the microphone, and just as poised as she could be, she explained, this is the barrette. It has 2 faces, and you wrap the hair around. And the people with the cameras were just flashing. So we went through the pitch competition, came very close. And the reason why I know we came very close is because I went to the judges afterwards. Because I know, and I'm not bragging, but I know we had the best pitch that day. But because of the markets we were competing with all the products that I mentioned to you, a hair barrette and something that's cancer, preeclampsia, it was hard. I think we were kind of underdog, but our pitch being so tight, it brought us within the top 4. And they really said they went to Google and was like, well, not Google, Microsoft, can we get some more money? Because they wanted to give us some money, but they didn't have more. So we ended up placing like 4th, which was hard. Gabrielle actually started crying, which crushed me. And we just kind of had to go to the room to the side at the end. We missed all the end of the pitch pictures and everything, but I had to make sure my daughter was okay. She is 8, you know? So it was difficult, but she got through and was dealing with it. We went to the White House, took some pictures, went to the Spy Museum. She was feeling better. But we got to the airport, and I just happened to Google GaBBY Bows, and I saw that we were in the Washington Post. And Gabrielle was okay. She was okay after that. She was like, Mommy, I'm okay now. I'm in the Washington. Then like 2 days later, we were in the Chicago Tribune. We was like, whoa, they, you know, published the Washington Post article. Like, well, okay, winning. We're winning. We're winning.
What were your lessons, or any lessons come out of that?
There were a lot of lessons. When you're in a pitch competition like that, you're really in a competition. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time focusing on the other people who were competing, but I probably could have spent a little bit more time and worked on really showing that our market is really, really big. And this is just an idea that is huge and will have just major impact. I don't know if it really could have changed it just because we were competing with such big markets or whatever, but I probably could have worked into my pitch some things that we have planned down the pike as far as enhancements for the barrettes and different sizes of the barrettes and a crafting kit. You know, all these things that we're working on. I didn't mention those things, so for them it was, you got a plastic hair barrette. I probably should have thrown in some type of way, even whether it was in the Q&A or something else, that there are other things that we're developing past this, and there are other things that we're gonna have that'll add to this brand. So there was definitely pointers that I'm glad that I learned now, that when another opportunity comes up like that, I'll know that, okay, we came this close, but because it didn't seem like our market was large enough, I've got to figure out a way to incorporate that into my pitch. So it was a wonderful experience, met some wonderful people that I'm still staying in contact with to this day who were also finalists. And it really did just garner just a lot of public and media attention that we just were not expecting to come out of it. So it was a wonderful experience, and we appreciate it.
So now that you know you're in business.
Yeah, I got a business account now. So if y'all want to write a check out to GaBBY Bows, I can cash it tonight. I can.
What's your favorite part about being a business owner?
Wow. Being able to benefit from the work of your hands and really see the results. I mean, I've worked, and I still do work for a company, but to be able to say, I'm going to put in this much effort, and I'm going to get that much in return, and it's not just a steady salary or something like that. Like, I'm going to work my butt off really hard in this vendor show, and it's going to prove, the results will prove that to me. That's been awesome. I mean, it's nothing like being in business with an 8-year-old. It is just so cool just to be able to teach her life lessons, business lessons. You know, every time before we go to some type of vendor show or a festival, a school festival, we go through this break-even analysis exercise. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Gabrielle, these were the costs to be here. How many barrettes do we need to sell to break even? I mean, she's pretty sharp with it now. She comes right back. We need to sell 5. We need to sell 10. We can sell 5 at our single price, but if they do a 3 for 10 deal, we need to sell 1 of those deals and then 1 single pack. I said, girl, you got it, you know. So those lessons, and then just seeing her develop. Gabrielle, naturally, we have very same temperament. It doesn't look like it right now, but we're very reserved. but we know how to turn it on when we need to. So to see someone who outwardly, if you don't really know her, you're like, wow, that's a really shy girl. But to see her like 2 days ago speaking before 300 second and third graders at an elementary school doing career day with a little headset on, she thought that was the coolest thing ever. And, you know, speaking and then taking questions and, you know, recognizing kids like, okay, that question, yeah, you with the white and black jacket with the turquoise, yeah, okay, yeah. All right, I'm gonna go over to this side and then I'm come back over here. You in the pink shirt, yeah. So how do we make them? They're made in China. Okay, you, it was just hilarious. She has it down pat. So that's just, it's an amazing experience to see her grow and develop over the last year. To see her, we've been on some interviews and she's been nervous and, you know, we've talked through and coached her through and we prayed through and she'd be, you know, but to see her now, like, I'm ready for a challenge. I'm ready for an interview. TV, let's do it. Radio, let's do it. It's just been amazing to see that. That's been my most rewarding part of being a mompreneur.
So, do you have any recommendations for anyone who wants to start a business or is thinking about starting a business here in Columbia? I kind of live by the motto, he or she who solves problems gets paid. So make sure that whatever you are seeking to do as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that it solves some type of problem. And you know, from there, there are just so many resources, particularly if you're starting a business here in Columbia, there's so many resources that are free or of low cost to you. And just really avail yourselves to those things. I mentioned a lot of them already, you know, through the incubator, through the city, 1 Million Cups, SCORE, the South Carolina Women's Business Center. I mean, there's just so many different resources. You all put on a wonderful conference every year, and just availing yourselves to those opportunities to meet people and network and hear about what other people are doing, and just connect and learn from each other. Now, you mentioned earlier that you still have your day job.
I do.
And you are trying and have launched a business, and you have children and a husband. I've heard all of that today. How do you balance all of that?
Oh, I don't. If you all were in here before we got started, you saw how I was balancing. And this is specifically for moms. If you're going to be a mompreneur, every mompreneur needs a wife. Mm-hmm. That woman that just walked out, I love her. That's my mother-in-law. I secretly call her my wife. In the traditional sense of the word. She's about to go feed my kids. She's, you know, you need help. And I don't balance it all. I don't help it all. I like to say that I blend, because balance sets up this false expectation that everything gets equal attention and it's all just kind of balancing out. Like, no, that's unrealistic. You know, right now on my job, for example, I'm a registered lobbyist. We're in the last 2 weeks of legislative session. It's straight up crazy right now. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's no balance in that. That is pulling a lot of my time and energy right now. So I'm blending that with everything else that's going on in my life. So my day job and legislature is pulling a lot of me. You know, right now, Gabrielle and her speaking schedule and her itinerary, that's pulling a lot of me. So I'm blending that with everything else. You know, when the summertime comes, I've got some specific things that are dedicated just to my son. So he'll be pulling a little bit more out of me. So I will blend that with everything else that needs. And, you know, I won't be in the legislature, so that won't. So it's more of a blend. It's not a balance. And I have help. So some people ask, you know, how do you do it all? I don't. I don't do it all. I'm not cooking these 3-4 course meals during the week. I'm not doing that. My best friend is Sam's. They have a really nice big rotisserie chicken that you buy for less than $5. Y'all can eat on it for 2 days. You know, Sam's, old El Paso taco kits. I mean, like, I'm unapologetically, I'm not being all that right now. I am a wonderful mother for the purpose that's on my life. And I'm a wonderful wife for the purposes of my life, but I know what's most important. And that's kind of how you balance it all. And for me, my family is such a priority, everything else just kind of falls under that. So it's typical, just like yesterday. I had 3 things going on at 10 o'clock yesterday. And I had to decide a really important task force meeting where our governor was going to be there. I was supposed to be there. Then there was a subcommittee hearing, and before that subcommittee hearing, I needed to stalk a legislator. And I said that, I just said stalk. I needed to stalk a legislator about a bill. And then my daughter had been invited to speak at a career day. So I'm like, okay, you can't balance that. Like 2 things are not going to happen. So I made my business to stalk the legislator for a couple minutes, went all the way across town to the State House to do that. But I left when I needed to be able to be with my daughter, eat lunch with her, because she had asked me to do that, eat lunch with her, then take her to career day, and that time was dedicated to her. So that's my priority, and decisions are made easy once your priorities are set. So if it's going to be my family or my job or something like that, my family's always going to trump everything else. So that's how I blend.
What has been your most memorable moment dealing with GaBBY Bows?
I'd have to say it was in Atlanta. I guess we were in Atlanta maybe about a month ago. We were at the 18th annual World Natural Hair Show. We had never been to this event. It's about 20,000, mainly women, who come to it in Atlanta. And I had reached out to the organizers to ask for a discounted table because my kid is 8 and she's cute. And they said no. But they really loved our story, and they went to the founder of the show and the founder of the company. It was a well-established company. They got products in every mainstream retailer dealing with natural hair. That person went to the founder and said, have you heard about this little girl and what she's doing? It's, wow, if she's coming, we'd love to honor her on the main stage with an award. So they called me back and I said, well, we're not going to do the discount thing, but our founder wants to recognize her on the main stage. And I said, okay, well, let me think about that. And then I talked to some people who had been there and said, that's a big deal. So we did that, and Gabrielle was recognized, and that was a wonderful experience. She gave her this beautiful globe and said she would change the world, and she told everybody to go buy the bows, and people we had been trying to sell the bows to all that morning rushed to the table, and it's like, we're gonna buy them now, just because that woman said, buy the bows. And that's not the most memorable part. After that, well, it was a Friday, it was a Saturday and Sunday show. So Saturday, Gabrielle was recognized. A mom and her daughter came over and they bought barrettes. And we took pictures with the little girls and everything. The next day, on Sunday, the mom and daughter came back. And the little girl's hair was different. And I said, okay. So she came to me and she said, we got home and my daughter insisted that I change her hairstyle to match Gabby's. She redid her hair, it was braided to the side, and put the GaBBY bows in. And she insisted that we come back today to buy more bows and a t-shirt. So she came and she was just kind of looking like, look at me, GaBBY, I look just like you. She's like 5. She was a 5-year-old little girl. And I mean, it was just, I wish I had a camera and was ready to record it, but she hugged GaBBY so tight and was just picking up every other color, like, Mommy, I don't have this color. And she was like, slow down, you can't get everything. But she was so excited and really just wanted to be like her so much that she said, change my hair, put the barrettes in right now. We need to go back and buy some. And if she even tried to match her clothing, because Gabrielle had on stripes the day before, so she picked out stripes to wear that day. Gabrielle didn't have on stripes Sunday, but so she was a little disappointed. But just that impression over that 5-10 minute sales pitch with her, that little 5-year-old girl was so inspired. And hey, maybe she's the next 5-year-old GaBBY who's consistently and persistently asking her mom about an idea too. Changing the world.
So before we open up for questions, what's next for GaBBY Bows?
Wow. We are now in 40 Walgreens stores in South Carolina and Georgia, and we're in the process of launching in 50 BiLo stores across South Carolina. So we're managing that. The media attention, of course, is certainly drawing a lot of people to the store. So what's next for GaBBY is trying to keep up with the demand in the stores that are running out of barrettes, because we're still doing direct to store supplying with the Walgreens stores. We're working with the distributor with the BiLo. So we're keeping up with the demand with our existing retail partners, making sure that we're doing a lot of promotion and marketing for BiLo, and we'll be doing a lot of meet and greets over the summer in those BiLo stores and letting people know that GaBBY Bows are in BiLo as well. So we'll be traveling the state to do that. That's kind of the immediate next things. We're also in the process of developing a GaBBY bow that's almost like a craft bow. That ribbon could be glued or attached or sewn to, so we're working with our engineers to create something like that. And then also a crafting kit. So this crafting barrette is something that moms and daughters can sit down with each other and create their own GaBBY bows and have their own expression and style, whether it's through ribbons, monograms, all those things. So that's a very exciting thing, and that was Gabrielle's idea. She actually wanted an app. So I guess she may get it. Some type of app where they can get on the website and create their own bow. And I was like, okay, let's start with a little crafting kit or something first. So she wants to do that. GaBBY bows with ribbons, GaBBY bows that can be crafted by moms and daughters. We're also working on different size GaBBY bows. So for a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, that our barrette may seem to be a little bit too big for them because of how much hair they have. Smaller versions of the barrette. So we're working on that. And then, working to really, we've got this regional presence, maximize that so we can get more stores, because you basically have a few months to really prove yourself before those stores start saying, well, they're doing really well in South Carolina, let's move them to North Carolina, or let's move them to Tennessee. So we're really working to develop those relationships through sales and just trying to expand ourselves in the retail market as well as online.
All right, any final remarks for the audience?
Well,
Before we end.
Sure. Sure. If Gabrielle was here, she just loves to tell people, persevere and never give up. And there have certainly been several roadblocks. I said on a TV interview not long ago, I know right now it just seems like, wow, everything's just falling together. There were so many no's. We've become numb to no's. And I say that, but no still hurts sometimes. We've certainly received a lot of those. Some crushing, like tear-flowing no's that we've received on things that we thought would happen, but we just kept pushing through it, kept persevering through it. So really don't stop, and find some type of motivation outside of just yourself and your emotions about it. For me now, it's more about leaving a legacy of perseverance and faith for my daughter and my son. It's also about, particularly for her as a young girl, setting her up to be economically independent. Once I had her, I really thought that once I was pregnant and working, for several years, I thought I'd have my daughter, my first child, and, stay out for a couple of weeks and go right back to work, and it just would be nothing. Just kind of pop her out and just keep going about my business. But I really struggled with going back to work after having her. And so I was able to create a work environment where there was flexibility. I didn't stay in the office for 5 days. I was in the office for just 3 days, and it helped me cope. But I don't want her to be in that type of position. I want her to work on her own terms. And I'm setting her up now to be able to do that. That eventually, and I keep telling her, as soon as she gets her license, she's doing all these meet and greets by herself. I'm just gonna send her so she can take a couple friends with her and do these demos in stores. But eventually I wanna set it up that, as she says, when I graduate from college and I have a daughter, I wanna run GaBBY Bows with her. So I wanna set it up that she's able to have this company and run it with her daughter as well.
I love it. Any questions from the audience? Or Laura? Yes.
Okay. Given what you know now, how would you, if you could redo the whole process, but you know what you know now, how would you do it? Because it seemed like all this took place after the fact.
All that took place after the fact. We just did a business plan. You don't know this either.
I meet companies every day at our incubator, and a lot of times the new ones will come up with their business plan, but I don't know look at it. Because here's the thing, what students discover is that there has to be a lot of morphing over time,
Yeah.
especially with inventions like that. So a lot of times, whatever you spent all this time and effort on a business plan, you end up moving it up about 2 months in development. And you find, and that's actually a good thing, you find through customer interaction or this whole product discovery process that you need to tweak it. And that's okay. So that's not surprising at all when you hear that, no,
I didn't have one. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I think like if I was going to seek financing from a bank, you need your business plan together. So we started to try to put that together, and we weren't actively seeking a bank. We've self-funded our company through retirement funds. So no one is invested in our company unless y'all want to do that tonight. No one's invested in our company. We've not gone to a bank to seek funds or anything like that, but we were starting to think that we needed to. So we said, okay, we need to get our business plan together. So that's what started the process, and I basically went to SCORE, and they showed me their template online. SCORE has a business plan template online, and I followed the template, sat down with a SCORE mentor afterwards who just kind of ran through our first draft, and really wasn't using it for a couple of weeks, and then the Innovator pitch competition came up, and I was like, oh, you need a business plan? I'm so glad I finished that 2 weeks ago. But it is ever changing. I look back on it now, and it's just like, wow, I need to totally redo that page. It's something that continues to evolve. Looking back now, I probably would have gotten a lawyer involved a little earlier than I did. I don't think there are, I guess, obvious consequences to us not doing it yet, but it probably would have, we had to do a lot of catch up. Like I had to rush and try to create a website and publicly disclose my idea because I had floated it out to so many different companies that I wasn't really sure. And I could have gone to a store and saw my idea because I really was just not that protected. So I really would have made sure I was protected first, particularly if you've got some type of invention. I know people get nervous about talking to a lawyer and the fees that are associated. I just say, look, write out what you're going to say. You may want to practice and time it out because that clock is ticking as soon as they say hello. So have all that together. Do your own research about provisional patents and those things. You can do them by yourself, but if you're really on to something, you probably do need to try to get some professional help. It's probably one of the first things that I would do. There were a couple of things that I was about to do wrong that just didn't work for. So my idea was I was going to call this Pigtail Pals.
Say that again.
Pigtail Pals. That was going to be the name of the barrettes. Yeah. Y'all think that's crazy? Really? It's pigtails. Pigtail Pals. Okay. So I'm like, well, let me Google Pigtail Pals, and like somebody had just grabbed this name already, and it had nothing to do with pigtails. It was like gender, making sure that boys and girls could do with girls, and like just gender confusion. It was just like, okay, why did y'all take my name? Like this has nothing. It doesn't make any sense. Why do you have Pigtail Pals? Like Pigtail Pals is. I'm supposed to have that name. So after that, I was like, okay, God, what are we going to call this thing? And then I just kind of looked at GaBBY. I'm just like, why not just name it after her? So I said, okay, well, as I was trying to sell it, my pitch to the company was, whatever the company name, I'm trying not to say their name, GaBBY by that company name. So we're going to try to sell it there. So it was some things that I was going to do wrong that just ended up not working out. If I think of other examples, I'll certainly share them with you. It's a great question.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned that when you first approached the engineering company, you normally don't do business with startups because you have someone tell you and use the name you're able to create the first batch of bows. Just
Oh, wow. As far as the manufacturing of those bows, it was probably less than 1,000. Of course, the less of a volume you're getting produced, the higher per unit cost it'll be. But that did not include any of the engineering costs that was involved with them helping to redraw my design, do the CAD model, the prototype, and us having a model that we could test. So we're going through that process all over again. So every time we come up with a new design, we have to go through it all over again. So we're going through that now. So the whole process of going through the engineering, going through the CAD model process and prototyping can be $2,000 to $3,000 per design. So we went through that cost and process, and then the whole manufacturing cost. So, for less than $4,000, probably $3,000 by the time we had the packaging involved and the graphics, all of that, we were able to get that first batch. Now, looking back on it, that was not a lot of money compared to what we're spending now, but it was a whole lot of money to me then. But that's what it took to get started.
Would you do it a different way now? Like if you know what you know now, would you have maybe went with a different engineering company and have them do the engineering differently? That would...
I don't think so. We didn't go through a whole lot of reiterations of the barrette. The first design was, so our barrettes are named after things we'd call little girls. So the first design's Little Lady, which is a ladybug. Our second design is Sweet Pea, which is a sweet pea flower. Our Little Lady design, we were trying to have 2 different colors on the barrette. So we got the prototype and examples and samples back, and there were ladybugs with spots painted on top of them. So I have a 4-year-old son who some of y'all saw before, who really would have tore this whole place up if I let him stay. So he had to go. When you said we were video recording, I was like, please come get him right now. But he's the perfect tester of anything. So I just let him hold those barrettes on a car commute. The paint was all over his hands and all over. It's like, okay, that's not gonna work. So we can't have 2 colors on barrette because it's not gonna be durable. So we basically did raises on the barrettes for the features to show up, but just 1 single color. So no, I mean, and it worked. It was wonderful. It was a blessing that we didn't have to keep trying to figure this out. We figured out this design, and it literally worked the first day. Like, we put the prototype on Gabrielle, and she was just wearing it around school, and she came back with it, and it didn't come out. And to this day, we've never lost a barrette. 2.5 years of us testing it ourselves, having focus groups, never lost a barrette. So I don't think there's anything we can change. We've certainly, right now, our manufacturer is in China. We were not able to find someone in the US that could produce it at a cost-effective manner. So we were getting quotes back like $6 a pack to make our barrettes. We're only selling them for like $3.50 to $5. So it was just cost prohibitive to do that. We were able to find through our engineers, a really great company there. So we've certainly debated back and forth because there's this long lag time as far as getting it over. The cheapest way to get something over from China is to do it by sea. That takes several months. So you really need to be ahead of what type of supply you need or demand you need. I need to be able to anticipate that, Walgreens is going to need this many packs of barrettes. So we've got a big cargo of barrettes that's on the sea right now that we will receive somewhere near the end of June, probably about 8,000 packs of barrettes, and just trying to anticipate that. And then, of course, the shipping cost is also added to our cost of goods sold too. So we've gone back and forth about, can we find a manufacturer in America? And we found people who are willing to do it, but they won't even talk to you until you're producing 1 million parts. And they said they can compete with the prices in China, but that's a constant struggle. That's probably been our main challenge as a startup, is identifying manufacturing that's cost effective. And I think we've done pretty well for the volume that we're at right now. Those are great questions.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
5 things to get started.
Not 3.
Yeah. I'm gonna summarize some of the things I'm saying. Solve a problem, because I really do think that you know, we get paid to solve problems. I think we find we have value once we solve problems, and it could be any type of problem. It could be a hair problem, it can be a emotional problem, it could be, you know, family, whatever. Solve problems, protect the idea. You know, if it's an idea, type of invented or invention or something like that, protect the idea. Don't be afraid to step out there and go sell. I think a lot of times we get stuck in analysis paralysis. All this business plan and writing, like, see if somebody will go buy your product. I heard Damon John say this recently at a Black Expo. He was just like, you know, we do so much analytics, like, go to who you're trying to sell this thing to, and they'll tell you whether this works or not. They will be brutally honest with you. And you've got to have the courage to get it in their face and take the feedback. And it could be very brutal and critical, and just, they'll tell you, it costs too much, I don't see how it works. And they, you know, you set up at a vendor show with somebody, they will tell you, because they came in the vendor show and there's 200 people trying to get their money, and they ain't spending but $20. And you're trying to convince them to spend it on your table, you better be legit. And if you're not, they're gonna tell you why you're not legit. And you need to take those notes and be like, okay, yeah, I need to work on that. So sell it to somebody, you know, develop it. I talked to a lot of people that say, I have this idea, and I was trying to, you know, sell it before it was developed. Now, in my case, it was hard. I couldn't make a barrette myself. But I talk to people all the time who have an idea, they could sew it. Like, sew the product, make a couple of them, go to the flea market and see if you can sell it. You know, go somewhere and try to sell it. So that would be, I guess, my number 4. And then I guess number 5, don't quit. Keep going. Now, was that 5 or was that 4? Okay. Don't quit. Persevere. Don't give up. Keep going.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that you're spending a lot more money now than you were earlier. Have you hit the break-even?
Oh, no, not yet. I see it though. So I'm encouraged. It's, people think because you post stuff on Facebook you have though. I started getting emails and direct messages from long lost cousins asking me for money like 6 months ago. Look, y'all, I mean, look, some of this buzz, let me add a 6. Create your own buzz. All right, create your own buzz. Don't wait for somebody else to do the buzz. So I don't profess to be a marketing whiz or anything like that, but I realized that I needed to create my own buzz about this. So we did. Look, we dropping off bows, Gabrielle's posing with the picture, with the box of bows. And people love to see her in the pictures with the bows and dropping them off to Walgreens. So people like that and they share it. So you create your own buzz. So we probably look a lot bigger than we are. People probably think we have like a warehouse and a factory and all that stuff like that. And that's probably why people started direct messaging me for money. But no, we're not there yet. We do see it probably early next year, you know, unless something else, you know, big happens before then. So we'll get there soon. No, we're not gonna stop. But you know, when you have a product, particularly a low price product, and a lot of heavy upfront startup costs, like patents, like prototypes, you know, like molding and tooling, and you know, all of those type things, there's a lot of costs that are upfront. You know, my husband is in business. He's a stand-up comedian. So, you know, Gabrielle, we were doing break even. She said, when does Daddy break even? I said, Daddy broke even the first day he took the microphone. I mean, like, there's really no startup cost for that. He just gets the microphone and people laugh and they buy his product afterwards. That's in, you know, so our business is different from Daddy. So I explained that to her. So there's a lot of upfront costs that were involved, but we'll get there. We'll get there very soon, and we'll celebrate. But yeah, definitely create your own buzz, You know, we sent out press releases. I had like no experience with that, but people, you have to create a brand and a story behind it. And for us, our story is inspiring youthful creativity, and inspiring perseverance and those type things for girls. There's just a lot beyond just a plastic hair barrette. Like, what does this mean for people? This means inspiration for women. It means inspiration for girls. It means there are no excuses. That means it doesn't matter how young you are, you can do it. It has so much more. So we've, I think, been very successful in creating a narrative and a story behind our brand, and really GaBBY being the brand. And I talked to her a lot about, listen, this is your brand, okay? This is you. You know, when we get to the store, and I'm like a coach. I'm like one of those dance moms for an entrepreneur. You know, so we're coaching. I'm just like, this is your brand. People are coming to see you. People are expecting to see you. You know, those type things. So we've been able to create a brand that people just love and inspired by, young and old, regardless of gender. They just like, wow, this little girl, I have an idea and I'm not doing anything. Like, I have no excuse. I need to do something. This 8-year-old is not gonna show me up. And people get inspired by that. So create your own buzz as well as your own story.
I do want to add to talk a little bit about creating your own buzz, because we kind of had this discussion because you're actually selling to individuals. Mm-hmm. You're not trying to sell to a business, and you really work on volume. And we were talking about how often we're on social media trying to create that buzz. Talk a little bit about that and keeping your product in front of people and their minds, and how much that takes.
It does. It takes a lot of time. And then, you know, I thought I was pretty good with social media, but I realized that I had a lot to learn. And I've gone to inexpensive classes right here in the Midlands to help teach me what to do about social media. Went to one not too long ago, and it just like a $25 class, and they just really focused on Facebook. And you know, after that, I pulled from that you know, like my cover photo was just inappropriate for what, like, and this is just one. Now I'll give it to you for free. But when somebody gets on your Facebook page and they see your cover photo, does it have all the information you need to give them? Like, is your website on your cover photo? If somebody clicks on your cover photo, just that by itself, is your website there? Is your product there? Is something about your brand there? What's special about your product? Is that on your cover photo? And I think my cover photo, I don't even know what it was. I don't even think I had a cover photo. I think I had just like a profile picture, and there was a logo, but it was like, nobody knows what that is. So that night, I went to our graphic person, like, I need a cover photo. I need different types of hair and little girls using our barrettes. I need our website on it. I need it to say that we're a hair accessory, you know. So that night, immediately just changed our cover photo. So those type things, investing in things you do not know, like social media and those type things, because that's really where, I mean, we have gotten so many customers and shares and likes through Facebook. It's amazing. From wherever. So we've sold our barrettes now in 33 states and 5 countries. And most of that has been through social media. Yeah. So, because I told you, you know, retail is, you know, great, you know, but it's not what really, because by the time you retail and cost and distributors and those type things, you're really not getting the return on investment that you could really get if you're directly selling directly to customers through your website. So, you know, we got a map now, 33 states, 5 countries, and it's all been through social media, and having things that people are inspired by and they want to share. So if you go there, and you can go to our Facebook page and you can kind of see, okay, there's a strategy behind this, that I am promoting, you know, these things to Gabrielle. You know, so Gabrielle's speaking at career days. She's speaking at kindergarten graduations and 5th grade graduations. All those things are on the calendar. So those pictures of her doing those things, her being honored by her school district, or her receiving Young Entrepreneur of the Year, South Carolina, that's another proud moment, I should have said that. But she was just named South Carolina Young Entrepreneur of the Year for 2015, and the youngest to ever receive the award. So it's 5 winners this year. All of them were either in the 11th or 12th grade. All of them were males, and here's this 8-year-old little girl just kind of sitting in between them. So it was just really, really cool. But people loved seeing that image and those pictures, and they shared it constantly through social media. So we created the buzz when there really wasn't a buzz. So I sent out a press release. If somebody runs a story, that's great, but I'm gonna create my own story through social media. And you can do that for free.
Yeah. Any other, I think you had a question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask about niche marketing. You kind of alluded to the fact that already things kind of happen by happenstance. But early on, after the focus group, did you specifically target a special group of people like at your church or another group, or was it just kind of this, hey, you post on Facebook, say, hey, if I'm mine, I know it's
Yeah, we've just bought our first, and we spent very little as far as paid social media advertising. We just kind of did an experiment with Facebook over the last 2 months. You might have seen an ad. But our product, we know works in all hair types, but we know there's certain populations that use the barrettes more than others, like African Americans. So if we're paying for social media, we've done those things to target them on social media. But we are very cognizant of that same thing too, because we're not trying to limit our market. So we're making sure that all the images that you're seeing, particularly on our cover photo, show all different types of hair. So we've not necessarily gone directly to a certain market for anything like that. Now we will target elementary schools for different festivals and vendor shows. And then you really got to think out of the box when you're talking about selling your product. I got a school newsletter one day and it said, you know, we're having, my school, my kid's school goes to the same school, we're having a fall festival and we're having vendors, $15 tables. I'm just like, oh yeah. I was like, Gabrielle, how many bowls we sell? Break even for that. 3 packs, mama. All right, we're gonna do that. So we did that show and I just started Googling elementary school festivals, carnivals, and just started just randomly calling. Some people called me back, some people didn't. You know, we went to some schools that we were like, where are we going? But we went and we're just like, look, Saturday is a work day. And Gabrielle certainly has missed a number of, you know, classmate birthday parties and those type things as we were working this business. But we spent Saturdays usually on the road. We weren't in a store, we weren't in a Walgreens, we were at somebody's carnival or festival. We were just at Joseph Keels Elementary. They just had a festival on Saturday. The table was $15 and we were able to sell it. So we know our age group. So, you know, if there's an elementary school festival or we get opportunities now to speak at an elementary school, we're going to capitalize on that. So she was just at Condor Elementary speaking at their career day. We left them with flyers for a meet and greet that we set up specifically for them at the Walgreens down the street. We have arranged a 15% off discount for those elementary school families, and they have the coupon on their flyer. So they're gonna come and say, and we've done this, and it worked at another elementary school that we did this with some months ago. The parents weren't at the program that she spoke at, but they got home and said, Mommy, I must go meet Gabby. Gabby was at my school. She created a barrette that does not fall out. You gotta take me to Walgreens Saturday. And the parents were walking in like, my kid said I need to go meet Gabby. Like, where's Gabby? I was like, where's Gabby? Gabby's right here. I was like, okay. Gabby, show me what you got, you know. So they bought those barrettes. So we're doing that, and that's kind of how we're targeting. Elementary school, we know, because usually most girls, if they're wearing a barrette, they're under the age 10, although I've already told Gabrielle she has to wear her barrettes until we make $1 million. I don't care how old she is. I was like, you better create a barrette that's cool for teenagers, because you're gonna be wearing these Mommy, you're gonna be wearing GaBBY Bows, okay? So we really targeted elementary school kids. Why Walgreens? I didn't pick Walgreens. Walgreens just kind of happened. There's a woman at my church who we would just lament together about barrettes. And we were at a we have something called Hallelujah Night at church, like a Halloween alternative. We were standing in line, and we had talked about barrettes before, several months before. So we're standing in line, and I noticed her little girl has on barrettes, and I said, "You remember that conversation we had about barrettes?" She said, "Yeah, I know." So she had rubber bands around it. I said, "I'm working on something that might help us out." She was like, "Excuse me?" I said, "This little thing right here." She said, "Are you serious? Did you create?" I said, "Yeah, I'm just trying to create something, and I'm trying to sell it, and then, I'm just going." She said, "Roz, you're on to something. That might be something we want to sell in our store." And I was like, "Nah, I ain't trying. I'm just trying to sell it. I got a full life. I ain't trying to do all that." So several months go by. She see us launch online, and we're selling, and she's just like, "I thought you weren't trying to." She said, "I'm not trying to start a business. I'm just trying to sell these 500 packs I got, and I'm trying to sell my idea in a couple months." She said, "Okay, but do you mind if I take a pack to my district manager? I have a meeting with her tomorrow." I said, "Hey, I don't care, She asked for a picture. So I can do you better than that. I got 500 packs. How many you want? I'll bring you one of each color. I'll bring them to your house. So I brought them to her house, and she took a picture, sent it to the district manager that night. And the district manager was like, "Whoa, I wasn't expecting this. I'm adding more to this list, number 7. Go ahead and invest in the branding and packaging of whatever your product is. Go ahead and do that now." So when we created the idea and the product, we wanted the image of it to look like, we are ready to go on shelves. So when we created the packaging, it already had the hole that you could just stick it on a peg in a store. It already had the UPC numbers on the back. All that was ready. Like, it was ready. So I think when she had warned her district manager about it, she just thought she was probably going to see some bows in a Ziploc bag or something like that. So she showed her the picture. She was like, "Oh, wow, like, this is shelf ready." She said, "I really want to hear more about it tomorrow." So they discussed it at the meeting. And she said, "Call her and see whether she's interested in the 29 store pilot." So they called me, and I was like, "Okay, how many barrettes you need?" So I'm looking in my living room, because that's our storage right now. We don't have a warehouse. Barrettes have officially taken over the room formerly known as our dining room and our den. Like, barrettes are everywhere, boxes of barrettes. So I said, "Well, we got enough barrettes to give them some." We probably have to order some more later. So I said, "Yeah, we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to supply 29 stores." So I sent out a press release, and people jumped all over the story. And before we could get the barrettes to 29 stores, people were going into all the Walgreens, because it wasn't going to be every Walgreens in Columbia, asking for GaBBY Bows. And they was like, "What is this GaBBY Bows? I'm not getting GaBBY Bows." So they contacted the other district and was like, "Can we get GaBBY Bows too?" So the 29 store pilot ended up being a 40 store pilot over 60 days. That just really took off from there. So we had 60 days to kind of prove ourselves, and still there, still doing well. That's how Walgreens. We didn't approach Walgreens; it kind of came to us. And if we can continue to do business with Walgreens, we'd love to, but we're not. We've not picked them out as opposed to others. We're certainly open to others. If any of you others are here, we can talk afterwards. We don't have a non-compete agreement with Walgreens.
We have one last question.
Hi, Trey. Thank you.
You mentioned the Walgreens babies, so are you going to actively pursue another big box store, or have you been approached by it?
Well, we have sent a proposal to Sally, and it's been crickets. We've not heard anything from them. We're finding that to get into some of these big box stores, they may have online what you're supposed to do that, but a lot of times it's who you know and to get it to somebody. And a lot of people use brokers. We've even talked to brokers. We're not in a relationship with any brokers yet, but we're certainly evaluating all of that. It was a question, I don't think we got to it, about like a breaking point. We did so well with our pilot with Walgreens. Like, we moved 1,000 units in less than 4 months in those stores. And we were starting to get attention from Walgreens all over the nation, really. And immediately the market leader was like, let's expand you to 4 states, 450 stores. So we're excited, we're creating the buzz, we're doing videos, and we're on our way to an interview for a story that's gonna be published the next day in the Augusta Chronicle. I've gotten my face beat. Face beat means professional makeup done. Our hair is done, we're walking out of the door, and I get a call from the market leader of Walgreens. He's like, I'm sorry, I've got some bad news. Corporate just called and we're discontinuing your product. Just like that. Like, we'll give you the money that we owe you, but we're gonna take your product out of our 40 stores and we're not expanding to the 450. I mean, my kids were in the car making all kinds of noise. I could hear them in the garage. But I called my husband, who was on the road traveling. He's a stand-up comedian, and I cried. I could not believe that quick a store could just be like, just that. Another lesson I've learned: these stoves ain't loyal. So, at that point, we convinced them to keep them in the 40 stores, and we're still trying to build back up to that expansion. Immediately someone had reached out to us about BiLo, so we pursued BiLo. So we're in 50 BiLo stores across South Carolina. So now we recognize that, look, we need to be open to all different types of stores, because based on corporate decisions that are beyond our control, numbers that they're looking at, and they have no idea, they don't know our story, they hadn't identified with us personally, they can just discontinue you that quick. So we really are trying to diversify ourselves. We're certainly open and looking into Walmart or any other stores that we can get into. Well, what they said is, he said that the category, and anybody's got a product that you're trying to get in the stores, there's certain categories they fit in. And for them, the category that our product fell in, they were used to a certain percentage margin, which I had no idea about. So when I negotiated locally what my price would be to them to sell it, I was just trying to make sure I was covering my costs. I wasn't thinking about what type of margin they're used to receiving on this type of product. So when corporate looked at this, and then Walgreens is going through a lot of changes now. They've, closed some stores. They're doing diversifying outside of the U.S. So before, when expansion decisions were made on the local level and went up to corporate, they changed that in the middle of dealing with me, that expansion decisions come from corporate down. So they're looking at the numbers and they're just like, who authorized this? And they just said, no, the expansion decisions come from corporate down, and they don't have the margin that we're used to in this category, so we're gonna discontinue it. But like I said, we convinced them not to discontinue it, and we're still doing well in the stores. We increased the single unit price to see if that helps. And there's some people at Walgreens that have been really good to us, and they're trying to connect us to a broker and those type things. But we'll see what happens.